The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Hello, welcome once again to the program we call, endearingly, How to Control Your Negative Emotions. My producer prefers me to use negative. I would say, How to Control Your Emotions. I have a book by that name. We should learn to control our emotions, and I know a lot of people out there saying, well, I need to learn more about that, jokingly, of course, but it's not so funny when you understand that the root of your emotions is your whole personality. Right at the root of your emotions, right where you live, is supported by emotions, and the kind of person that's supported by emotions isn't human. Oops, a lot of television sets just got turned off. So we like to think of emotions as being human, but we're going to go into all that. We're not human when you're emotional. You do all the dumb things in the world under the spell of emotion. You get upset, you do say something dumb. You don't do something sensible when you get upset. But then we say being upset is normal. But how can it be so normal if you always do something dumb? See? And let's talk about those things. But tonight I want to open the floor for questions. I have, well, an audience that keeps coming because they want, as a matter of fact, I'd rather have the same audience than new ones. To hell with the new ones, they don't come anyway. You know, if I was Phil Donahue, they'd be say, hey, mama, you know. They want to be seen on television with the great ones. But we are now in an ongoing relationship, and all these ideas about emotions and how it changes our personality and dehumanizes us will now begin to unfold before your very eyes. Okay, you have a question to begin with to set the ball rolling.
Yes, in one of the tapes you mentioned that some women that breastfed babies got a thrill from breastfeeding.
You're starting pretty heavy already, aren't you?
Yes, but I didn't quite understand that, and I wanted you to
Did you have that problem when you were little?
Yes.
Well, why did you ask the question? I mean, people do get too much feelings out of things, but you can get too much feelings out of anything, like food. Normal sex behavior can be turned around, and the ego can derive too much pleasure from it and start to pervert its real use, you see, and then develop guilt and a personality that's dependent upon abusing that part of your body. As a matter of fact, cancer, I believe, can be identified in various parts of the body because, you know, when we are guilty, we tend to use our senses to elude guilt. We try to open the senses to as much stimulation as possible, or use stimulation to open our senses so that we can receive through them much distractive pleasure. See how I said that? You get caught up in and away from the guilt. And of course, denying the guilt, escaping, in other words, using the emotions, these overreactions which we start to become quite skillful at developing. When we do that, it's really a denial of guilt, truth, because it's only the truth that can set us free from the enslavement and the kind of person the enslaved person is becoming, you see, through those emotions. I said, when you react to the outside world, you develop a different personality and a different identity from the person that would have developed had you not reacted so severely to the outside world and formed that identity. See what I mean? So therefore, but when one identity forms, because you do react to stress, the other one is denied. So the other one is stunted. The real part of us, the little child, never grows up the way it was meant to be. And as a result of this one part of us, this dark side that grows, in opposition and in conflict with the bright side that never grew, our potential, I say that's that potential, see, is called guilt. Now, guilt is the conflict between what we are and what we might have been, or what we've become through those emotions. Now, how does the person who starts to experience guilt deal with this? Well, because of the pride that enters through the emotions. Remember, I said we react to the outside and we become a different kind of personality, and that personality is called pridefulness. And so the pridefulness is the arch enemy of truth. Its truth is lies. That's why you make an excuse. See, you start to react, you do something dumb, then you make an excuse. So the excuse is the truth of pride. It's lies. See, so therefore we put up this barrier, this protection against reality as we grow, and we defend this fallen, this alien identity. And of course, as we defend it, how do we defend it? We defend it through more overreaction to pleasure or pain, but let's talk about pleasure. We open the senses. We like to get overexcited about things. You know, people love the game shows. They love to jump up and down, you know, and getting very excited about this or that. No matter what, even people meeting each other at the airport. You see them waiting, you know, like waiting vultures. Oh, here he comes. You know, oh, hello, Joe! And they hug each other, and they see, now how I deal with it, I say, hello, and I'm calm, but the other person likes to I feel I'm trying to suck as much benefit from me as possible. See, it's unhealthy. We do that in everything. We overreact, we get too excited like little kids. See, because we are all in the business of rejecting the inner reality and building the false personality, the unreal reality for ourselves, you see, as if it was the real one, and the natural one, and the right one. But you see, the whole process of rejection is building a wrong identity and denying the truth at the same time. There are two things that happen when you overreact. You reject truth, and you reinforce the self gone wrong as if the wrong self was the right one. And now we've got more guilt. The guilt doesn't go away because God is ever present. That part of us, that spiritual part that's designed us to manifest Himself in and through us. See, in this world, the kingdom of heaven on earth, is not happy with that. But it's a silence. Our conscience silently convicts what we've become. Well, how do we do with it? Overreact. Open the senses. See, and nurture that false self through what comes, with the essence of what comes through. But the essence of what comes through makes you a more false self. For a moment you feel good, and then the morning after, the moment of truth. So you see, as our guilt makes us, teaches us the way, our salvation from guilt, that the alien identity's salvation from guilt is oversensitivity. We think, oh, we're so sensitive. I'm such a wonderful person. I'm so sensitive. Sensitive, my foot. Wonderful person, my foot. 2 feet. It's just an excuse. We think because we're sensitive, we're beautiful. But that's how we think we're beautiful, because we're forgetting we're not. We're losing ourselves in the uprush. See, the rush of excitement, and nurturing something dark and sinister and morbid, which has a very bleak future. That's why we feel hopeless and guilty and full of anxiety and desperate, lonely. We're moving in the wrong direction. We're building identity from the outside, inside, rather than from the inside. So that's a long way from your question, isn't it? But the point is, all people, it's the same answer for everybody. We get too much from people, and the child at the breast would feel that, because the mother would start to make the child cripple for the sake of her own needs. See, if the child will grow up and become independent and reject her, then how's she going to get that feeling? See? So, women do that to men too, by the way. And men do it to women for whatever they need. They encourage them to be sensitive, reactionary, see? Yes. Gentlemen, what, you have somebody over here. Sorry, I'm sorry.
So where would be the truth? Would it be motionless? Is that where the truth
is? Yes. You ever read Buddha?
No.
The writings of Buddha?
No.
That's all of his teachings are that, dispassionate, emotionless, not stoic, like, rigid, cold, because that's a sickness. People who are mentally ill, they, after being hurt so badly through emotions, because emotions don't help you. They are some kind of protection against truth. But for a while it works because you start to feel better and you can thumb your nose at reality. See what I mean? But the point is, you get worse and you get hurt bad because you're more sensitive to the world around you, and since you don't have the common sense to guide you, because that's what you've been rejecting is your common sense when you're rejecting the corrective presence of your conscience. You're leaving behind your real criteria of judging and discerning anything, so that you walk blindly into messes and situations that you get very badly hurt. So then you discover emotions are dangerous to you. But you only discover not because you understand, but only because you experience so much pain. Follow? So that's where a person might become catatonic or completely cold and emotionless. So cut off from the world so they don't feel anything. We're not speaking about that. I just want to be sure that I answer the question in its fullest sense. That
I'm getting bits and pieces.
You're getting bits and pieces. What I'm saying is that you have to learn to deal with your guilt and your inadequacies and your anxieties and your sense of loss, emptiness, in a different way than filling it from the outside with going for the feelings, fantasies. See, the uprush of feeling, what dope addicts and dope pushers, when they get to that point in life when they're total degenerates, the only relief they have from the guilt, the pain, is, they haven't got time for the pain. So they go take an aspirin, and then aspirins lead to other stronger things, and stronger things to stronger things, until they're into drinking and alcohol and dope. And how do they, in other words, they only feel good. They only feel real good. They're caught up with the bad that says they're good. They're caught up with a very destructive, malevolent intelligence that understands how to give them salvation from salvation. See? In other words, strengthen the means by which the rush, the downdraft that pulls you. You need stronger and stronger means because you've got more and more guilt. And guilt says you're a failure. Guilt says you're a dog, not a god like you want to be. And every time you become a god, you become a dog, because you're actually denying God to become a god, but that's a dog, because you're becoming animal. You're taking your identity from the nature, from the world around you, but it's more than nature. It's something beyond nature. It's unnatural. It's supernatural in the sense it's beyond nature. Super unnatural. So you have an identity problem too, because up through that, those electricity of the emotions comes an identity, and it sits in there, and that's what, if it was just emotions, if you were just an animal, that wouldn't be so bad. You could look at this animal and say, oh, well, I'm an animal, what am I going to do about it? But it's more than that. You have another identity inside you. And this identity is called pride, but it's a brainchild of this thing that has taught you to escape, to sink yourself, submerge yourself in the bosom of those pleasures. Because right adjacent to the physical pleasures is the spiritual source, right on the other side of matter. Just on the other side of it. After all, when you're dealing with a woman, when you deal with a woman, you're not dealing with just a body. See? It's not like having sex with a tree or something like that, or an animal. You've got a spirit, you have a guileful spirit on the other side that's manipulating that weakness, right? And getting to you. And it's got a powerful will. And there are wills and counter wills. We're dealing with wills. Wills are not just chemistry. See? Wills understands what your weaknesses are, what this God game is, and how the senses are opened, and how one tends to forget one is a dog and remember one is a God. You know the old commercial? I don't know how you remember these commercials, but I kind of like the commercial because it really depicts what's going on. The woman who comes dressed like a business lady, she says, I come home and I get the bacon and I fry it in the pan and I never let him forget he's a man, remember that? She's his mother and he never lets him forget he's a man because she's got to keep his excitement level up, otherwise he remembers he's an ape. He discovers. See, never let him forget he's a man. It's a way of turning words around. Never let him forget he's a man. Always remind him that he is, otherwise he discovers he isn't. And it's by means of excitement we put lies in it. And you see, but the trouble is there's a spirit of will there that comes through the senses, through the electricity, and starts to take shape inside us, even if we went the opposite way. If we could just learn to resist this identity, resist temptation, in other words. So that's what the Bible says about dying and being born again. It's this side of us that dies. It's the side of us that dies, slowly disappears. That's why we feel like we're dying when we lay down emotions, when we lay down excitement. We feel like if we lay that down, we're missing a great deal in life. And I tell you, the truth is just the opposite. If you don't lay it down, you're missing. Who preserves his ego life shall lose it. See? There's a scripture for you. See? But who shall lay down his life shall find it. See, there it is. There's two kinds of lives. The life is the ego animal life and breath, and the other one is spiritual life and breath is preserved. So, in a sense, as you lay down, as you start to realize through pain and suffering that the emotional way is a lie. See? And that being emotional is not being human, it's becoming subhuman. And that's how you become dehumanized and led like a bunch of sheep. And that's the big lie that's being perpetrated in this society and the world ever since time began, you see, for man. Follow? And this other identity starts to grow. It's what you hear in me.
Yes.
I don't say I didn't feel anything. I just, I can smell the fresh air and see the sunrise. And enjoy the good steak. Well, I don't eat meat anymore, so hardly anymore anyway. So, I eat a baked potato for dinner. But I can still taste the baked potato, but I don't lose myself in it. And I don't have to have a huge dinner with all the trimmings and all the smells and the aromas, which connects me to my mama. And beyond mama to the spirit. You know what I mean? The spirit of mama. So therefore I get a good reinforcement. I feel like if it's spaghetti, I'm Italian. If it's human flesh, I feel like a better cannibal, right? If it's matzo ball soup, I feel more Jewish, more of a person, right? See, it connects you, it reinforces. You see people get into their food, but you see they're forgetting what they are and remembering who they think they are. They think they're as the real person, and it's not the real person at all. They are all very too into material pleasures. See? Artsy people are like that. Artsy and craftsy people are like that. They're too into material pleasures, too much. Your senses are not designed or meant for this purpose of aggrandizing the ego. Your senses are meant for you to sense the world around you, to bring you information, not to escape into. See? And for your spirit to act through. Once you receive the information and you realize there's the problem. Your eyes see, your ears hear. But you see, most people, when they look at a woman, they don't see a woman. But they tune those eyes, you see, and the women can sense how men are looking at them as another kind of look that men look. See? And they're lapping her body with the eyes, aren't they? See? They're drawing something out of women, and women feel the energy. Men feel sort of an awakening of their senses, right? All set to receive, through lovemaking, this reinforcement of who they think they are, which is nothing else but a selfish animal. See? Led by the nose, by the people who understand those weaknesses, and of course, this society is disintegrating. There's no answer. I didn't mean to give a long lecture.
Oh, that was cool.
It was cool, all right. It's hot, but it's cool.
Right. Is there ever let's say emotions are very, very powerful tools.
They're not tools at all.
Okay, very powerful.
Forget emotions.
Okay.
You want to be my student?
I'm not
But
hearing
I'm
this.
trying to say, forget it. Emotions are powerful tools for other people to control your brains.
Right, understood.
They're no good for
Negative
you.
tool. I'm not saying they're negative.
Right.
Okay,
They are negative.
I'm not qualifying in one way or the other. It's not the gist of my question. There is a kind of emotion that Christ experienced in the temple when the money changers were.
You don't know. You have no concept. Let me interrupt here. People ask me, what's a right way to relate to a woman? To have sex? Are you telling me that sex is wrong? One shouldn't have any feelings? I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said we mustn't use those feelings to escape or to build an identity from. See, the other person mustn't become your all. See, you can't. You see, because that's what causes all the problems. If your all is just made of flesh, is something real, rather than intangible like God is, it limits your potential of growth. See, nobody can be an all to everyone. And when a person who is an all to someone, who is used, who's the sex object, in this case it would be a woman to a man, if she was to become old and ugly, then you see your investment in her starts to, the image of yourself begins to crumble with it, see? And that leads to anger and disappointment, see? And remember, you know, people have wills of their own. You want something from this woman, so you put her on a pedestal and you play little games, but she has will and a counter will of her own. You have a will, she has a counter will. So, but God has, when his relationship with us is completely different because he's a beyond and he is intangible and he doesn't limit our development and doesn't develop like human beings do. Do you see what I'm saying?
Are you saying there's never a justifiable emotion?
Never
for,
justifiable.
For justice' sake, you don't believe in that crap?
No. I didn't say, you see, I didn't say you won't hear me raise my voice. For example, I bought a Chinese junk once for $2,500. First boat I ever owned. And we used to have a lot of fun, and it had a little putt-putt, and it was 30 feet long. It's really a sampan. That was all I could afford. It was fun. And so I brought it up to Ventura, and there was no breakwater there at the time. And because my wife has understood all the things I'm saying about emotions and raising your voice and things like that, you know, being angry. So we were coming through the entrance and a big wave comes, and the man I was with didn't know anything about boats and had a tiller. And he grabbed the tiller and pushed it too hard and broke the tiller. There was a lot of kids on board, a lot of people on board. He didn't trust me to handle it because I know how to handle it. He broke it, put too much force instead of moving it slowly. So now we lost our control and the thing started to broach. And I started yelling and being strong and, you know, raise the mizzen, knock down the yard arm, you know, yeah, batten the hatches. I couldn't think of what to say. You know, yelling everybody else. My wife says, you know, you were yelling. There's a time that you yell, and there's a time to be strong. You know, the Bible says be angry but sin not. See? And now there's a time to be strong. The Christians are very fond of saying that Jesus was angry. They're very defensive on this point. They have this ready-made answer whenever you bring this question up. That Jesus was angry. How many people have you heard tell you that? Right? So it's okay to be angry. It never says, it doesn't say in the Bible anywhere, not in any version, that Jesus was angry. It just said he threw it through the people at the temple. Because he teaches not to be angry and not to. If you hate your brother, you know, anybody who resents his brother is a murderer. Anybody who hates his brother is a murderer. But yet you say you have to be upset. Oh, the people say I don't get angry, I don't hate. They don't realize that resentment and being upset is hate. It's got we give it we don't think we hate. Hate is a terrible thing. We never will admit to ourselves that we hate. You see? So there is a way, someone rushes at your wife and your children, you're going to stand there and not be motivated to protect them? Of course you're going to protect them, and of course you're going to shoot them or whatever it is that's going to be necessary to save their lives. And you're going to have to be strong, and you may have to be, in a sense, angry, but there's a righteous anger. And the righteous anger doesn't come from intimidation. For instance, if you provoke me and I respond, then I'm just reflecting your mood. I am moving in your time, and I'm evolving your identity. But if you try to make me angry, see, then you win, because you program me to behave, and you know how to anticipate my next move. Because you're an external person, you react to my reaction, and you see, so you already got your move planned unconsciously. So you have to learn. Well, we go on to this in our next program on this subject. I have to break here because I can't make the point in just a short while. Now, I want to just mention to the viewers that this might be the last week we do this program, because we don't get any support. And because I'm not pushing it that hard, and I hope I shouldn't have to push it, we're running out of money, our seed money. So the least you can do is buy the book for $10, or the whole the cassettes, which teach you to meditate and learn to be this kind of human being I say we should be, all right? And well, the second least thing you do, if you don't want to get started, at least get our New Dimensions magazines. I wish we had the latest one. Someone didn't give me the latest one. So next time, in the next program, we'll show you the latest one. It's a magazine. It's 64 pages, and you'll receive it every month for a year. And that's normally $36 a year, but to introduce the new listeners at $24. And so you write a check for $24, you can at least help the program to stay on the air if you like it. Big deal. We won't bother you. So we appreciate it very much, because I like doing what I'm doing. I think these people do too. They're already doing their thing already, so I won't ask them. Thank you very much for supporting the program, and just listen to the program or watch the program every night, Monday through Friday on this station. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll join you tomorrow.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Hello, welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Negative Emotions. And we are talking about just that subject. It's a carryover from last night as far as the audience, television audience is concerned. But is there such a thing as justifiable anger? So some people get angry and they feel right when they're angry. And they also feel strong when they're angry, because they have this uprush of feeling that makes the animal, evolves the animal self, the dinosaur part of us. When two people get angry with each other, they both feel right, and all they do is evolve each other's madness. So that if I get angry at you and you get angry with me, and then I get upset with you back and you get upset with me back, I mean, we're going to kill each other if someone doesn't pull us apart. There's something very mean that evolves between us, you see. Now, that is an anger that all animals need to function. But humans need emotion because emotions are the ingredient of escape and the evolution of a false self. Something that goes, in other words, there are two types of human beings that can exist in the same body framework. One from within, that is the pure and innocent one, the guileless. The one that lives by faith, the righteous that live by faith. Well, this faith is a non-emotional state. I have emotions, but not like you. See? And I have anger, not like you. And Jesus Christ has emotions that you know nothing about. He has a relationship with people that you know nothing about, except when you experience it, it's very powerful. You know that you've met another dimension, and you know that you've met your master. You know that all living things will bow before it. Of course, they'll try to persecute it as it starts to appear in you, this other wave, or this energy, this flow of life from within, this other kind of love, other than lust that you know about. See? This other kind of hate, you see, other than what you know about. See, I'll tell you how I know Christ hates how he hates. He hates like I hate. We both hate evil, but we don't hate people. See, so let me show you this. Hate, resentment, is an emotion that is a reaction to the outside world. So that when you are cruel to me, you tempt me. Cruel, tempt, unjust, unfair, horrible, wicked, cruel, mean, spiteful, ratty, whatever superlative. There's something in you that is not human, baiting me, right? It gives me the chance to become a bitter person or a better one, like the matador and the bullfighter. With the bull, the matador and the bull. Either the matador becomes better at that moment, or he hits the dust. And now it's the same thing what's going on inside a person. You're dealing with a person who's been, well, turned into an animal and serving, and through this agency, this vessel is now serving a spirit, a new master. And because that person is only that way because they failed to deal with their bull. It might have been a matador, but they turned into an animal. See? You see that? Now, the purpose of life here, if you met a Christ who would deal with you perfect, a Christ-like person, you would know that you'd know where he was coming from, because you'd see his dimension. He wouldn't have an ego. He'd be transparent. His life and his energy doesn't come from temptation. See? His life, he doesn't draw who he is from reacting and then turning around and causing somebody else to react. See? Because when you lose control and become an animal and you forget to be a person, you become subject to the beast. In this world, you are either the beast or the subject to a beast. So if you can't win, you lose. But as a loser, you try to find somebody else innocent to throw out of control and to dehumanize. And then you get to be in charge of that one. Who understands that? Okay, so, but when you meet a Christ-like person, you haven't met one, but if you ever meet one, you'd have a shock of your life. Because the spirit of that person's beyond, of your beyond, you being a slave, taking your anger out on someone else as it was done to you, would meet the love, the truth of the other person's beyond, the Christ-like person's beyond. And you couldn't stand up because you can't function. You can't function unless something reacts to you. See, you can't function. You are an externalized person. You lose. If you're a loser, you have to become a winner by making somebody else lose. And when they lose, you get a benefit. Life. See? You actually kill each other. You actually destroy something in order to get a value from it, a feeling of pride, strength. That's why we are cruel to each other. We degrade one another. We get certain pleasures from that because then we seem to win, and we draw some strength. I won't go into the details of that. Ever seen someone walk away from you and take your energy away? You feel drained because they upset you, right? And you feel diminished and dehumanized, and guilty and inferior and confused. See? And the other person walks away feeling important. Well, that's what it is. But I said I hate evil, but I don't hate the evil a Christ-like person would, an almost perfect person. The mark of that almost perfect person would be that you couldn't get him to respond. You couldn't get him to hate you. Because there's something in you that wants him to hate. Because that hate separates him from his power to overcome evil with good. Your evil. Your evil doesn't want him not to hate. He'd try his damnedest to make you angry, to upset you away from your love. See, but in that almost perfectly person's understanding of things, he knows not to hate the person. He knows to hate the evil. But how does that person hate your evil? He doesn't hate you. You've heard people hate the sin but not the sinner. Yeah, but the trouble is they talk about that, but they don't know how to separate the two. You end up kidding yourself somehow. I don't hate him, I just hate what he does. It's not true. Most people, there's a lot of talk. When you hate evil, if you hate the person, you're loving evil because you've separated yourself from good. So if you want to hate evil, don't do what evil wants you to do. Don't resent the person in whom the evil... See that that's not the person that's done it to you. It's something that's pulling his strings. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. See? You have to see that people are not who they are. They have been taken over, and that something in them is trying to take you over by what means? By making you hate God's image. Now, if it's a good person who can't help himself, you know, understand that this is the background of that individual in the past. And you can have a little compassion on your mother, your father, whoever it is when you reach that height of consciousness. But even if it's a bad person, all the more reason why you should forgive them and not be resentful. See how I put another word in there. See? Forgiveness. Not be resentful equals forgiveness. See? Not being resentful equals not being prideful. See, is to let the person become transparent, the pride begin to thin. See, begin to lose its substance. Let the light shine through. You don't rise to the occasion of reacting to some cruelty from which you draw your strength, see? Or you give power. You become a beast or the servant of a beast. But you're still in hell's kingdom. Who's following me so far? You are. See, this is all logical. So if you want to overcome evil, you must find, if you want to hate evil, don't hate people. Then you hate evil. Now, once that moment, that encounter has passed, someone comes at you and you don't respond with resentment. The evil hasn't overcome you with evil. Now it's your turn to overcome him with good. For the most part, very little more is necessary than you not responding with resentment. There's a light and energy that comes through you that you don't have. It's totally disarming because it's only if some... Have you ever seen the movies where, you know, Gary Cooper comes in the bar, drinks his milk, and, well, before Gary Cooper comes in, the cowpoke comes in, and the bad hombre, he tempts him and he pulls his gun and he shoots him dead, and so he reacted, pulled his gun, did just what was planned to do. And Gary Cooper comes in the guard, he drinks his milk and he doesn't provoke. The bad hombre calls him names and tempts him to draw, only in his own time. See? You will never, never, ever lose any fight, any problem. You cannot lose. You can always overcome evil with good, but you've got to resist the temptation to feed your identity from some kind of evil. You even marry a man that's just like your father you hate. Why? Because your whole personality is built on hating a man. And when you love him, what do? You're only weakening him, so the evil will come through and be cruel to you, so you can hate him. And when you hate him, your senses open up and you receive his identity. That's how you know who you are. You understand what I'm saying that? Yeah. So that's why you mustn't... Any questions? I mean, am I answering this too completely? Okay?
My question is, when... I'll give you an example so I can just illustrate a little better. But I do my meditation in the morning, then I walk the dogs with my son. And if he does something disobedient to me, I can, on a given day, I could really lose my temper immediately. Now, when
It's not the way to do it.
I know.
You
I
are
know that.
destroying your, listen, you are destroying your child.
I don't want
Everybody
to do
who is resentful towards their own children, angry at their children, when they should be patient and overcoming their little evils, what do you think they are doing? When they're tempting you, there's something wrong in them that needs correction. Now, how are you going to correct them in an incorrect way?
That's
If you're on the same level, don't you see? If you're just like the father you hated or your mother you hated, so they got into you, now your child is wanting love and you haven't got love to give them. Or all you do is provoke them so you can get a little energy. Knock them down, build yourself up, make them feel stupid so you can be smart.
Well, I've noticed that you said that one time, when you're irritable, you go try to suck energy out
Well,
of
the
someone.
irritableness is the fact that you need life.
Yeah.
Don't you see? We're dead, but we won't lie down. We all need life. Where does this life come from? It comes from reacting to something, getting something to react to us. What do you think the punks on the street are doing? They're looking for excitement. Whether it's rock and roll or whatever it is, they go out and beat little old ladies. Why? Because they want to see something bleed. They want to see something crack. They want to, don't you see, when something is destroyed and fractured and something reacts to them, they're in control. And in the interreaction, seeing little fireworks blow up. Have you ever seen the kids, when you were a kid, didn't you like to blow up fireworks? You're fascinated with the shock. You draw something from that environment. You disturb your environment in order to draw something from it. You want exciting people. See? You want to draw something from it. Whatever it is, your senses are opened up, your outer senses are open, and your inner senses are closed. See? Remember the story of the Garden of Eden?
Yeah.
It warned about eating of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil because your eye will be opened. Well, the eyes, the senses, are open to the world, but the inner one is shut. See? And the identity, the immortal identity, the death-centered identity enters. See? And starts to seek those excitements and pleasures, distractions, and keep building and building. But something's going wrong in there for which we feel guilty. How do we deal with guilt? My last discussion, more excitement. Open the senses, more reaction, more temptations, more things to be upset and mad about. Right? Okay, go ahead now. I didn't mean to take it that far.
Okay, but that's okay. You take it as far as you want. It always makes me feel bad because I know immediately that I didn't handle the situation correctly.
Well, you feel bad. What does it mean, feel bad? Just say it. Guilt.
Guilt, yeah. I feel guilty.
You've hurt your child
and I feel guilty.
to satisfy some inner need. Some mindless inner need.
Okay.
Look at it that way.
I do. Now here's the.
And look at it as a hatred of the child's innocence.
Yeah, I recognize that too. Now here's the crux of the issue for me. I don't know. I just can't find that fine line where it's, where you make.
Look,
where you.
I know what you're going to say. Forgive me. Your child wants your love. Okay? All you're doing is projecting greater failing on him than there is in you, and drawing out of that a sense of importance, power. You're weak before the strong. That's how you got to be that way. But you're strong before the weak. It's a dog-eat-dog world we live in, and that's you. You get your strength from being a bully, and you draw something from that. But you have to destroy in order to create that in yourself. See, you're selfish is what you're saying. You're selfish. You are willing to destroy your own child so you can fill that place where it's an irritable place that's hungry for life.
But I know that ultimately I'm not getting any benefit out of it, and
you know it, but you still do it.
Right. Well, I know I'm supposed to, make allowances and overlook on the spot, but on the other hand, I feel like I'm pushing something
You're in-
down inside of me.
I know, but
to
you're
do
not
it.
meditating correctly. See, you're following Roy Masters with your intellect.
Okay.
You see, for instance, Jim Baker did something wrong, supposedly, allegedly. But everybody's willing to forgive him. We were talking about this over dinner this evening with my producer. And we were talking about forgiveness and being patient. But some people can be patient with other people, like the Jim Baker congregation can be very forgiving with Jim Baker, because in a sense, it's a way of forgiving themselves when they forgive him. They get themselves off the hook. So you can be very patient with those kinds. So you have friends that you understand one another that way, right?
Could it be a selfish forgiveness?
It's a selfish forgiveness. It's nothing to do. You see, now I hear you parroting what I'm saying, so I know you don't understand a word I'm saying. I'm going to tell you, you're going to go right to the back of the class. Not one single word did you understand so far. See, I know you're supposed to overlook and forget, but in a way I'm pressing this down. Now, how could that be? I am teaching you a meditative technique that is so superb that you separate, if you're willing to separate, your soul, your consciousness, from your senses, so that you can oppose the senses. So you can say no to the senses, and through that which lies operating through the senses and beyond it. You could say no to temptation. You could say no to the extra candy bar. You could say no to the pretty lady next door that wants to take you away from your wife and children, right? You can say no to those things, because unless you're separate from your senses, we are afraid to be separate from our senses because it's like dying. When you're separate from your senses, you're close to truth. When you're involved in your senses, you're forgetful of truth. You're living in your fantasies, and the energies of your senses, your emotions, fuel your fantasies. And your fantasies fuel the experience, and the experience fuels the fantasies back again, and you're completely lost in space. You know what I mean? So most of us, you are not willing. You have that meditation exercise, but you are not yet willing. You can't take that step until you're willing to give up the essence, the nectar of the senses, from which you draw the sense of who you are. You're bonded to the world, to the source of who you became when you were a little kid, when you were violated and corrupted and became this other self that needs sense, experience, feeling to exist and to escape from realizing what does exist. So, but it's almost like death, because you've lived your whole life this way. So therefore, that when you stand back from your senses, and it's your ego, bless you, Mazel Tov. If you stand back from your senses, you're standing apart. Your soul is standing apart from the very essence it needs to exist. See, you can't get to people either. You can't manipulate people when you're separate from your animal self. See, you can't do that, because when you're separate from your animal sense, you are subject to the higher spiritual sense. Follow that? And that's what's operating, and that's what's making you subject. But it's slaying you in the spirit, because you are, your whole life, you become more guilty when you become objective. That's why people take dope. They keep themselves subjected, submerged in sensory stimuli, simply because that's the way they save themselves from guilt. It's like salvation. It's a false savior of the senses and through the senses. So that when you give up the senses, you start to experience guilt. That's why you're afraid and you feel like you're going to die. That's why people look at me and say, this guy's crazy, he's asking us not to live. Right, in the sense I am. But you've got to die in order to be born again. This self has to die. It feels like you're dying, but it isn't you that dies. It's only this other self that isn't really you, that you've identified because you've identified with, yes.
How does the third party react when your own family, your brother-in-law and your sister, are reacting like that to the children? What is a part of the third party when he sees this?
You mean your children?
No, my family's children.
Well, you have to give me a situation.
Well, my sister and brother-in-law treat the children like this. They mistreat them like he does, And how do I react to them? What do I tell them?
Well, I mean,
what's going on?
you see it?
I see it all the time.
Yeah, well, for instance, if my son, if my son is slightly impatient with my grandson, I'm there. I intercede on his behalf. You know, you have to be very strong with your brothers and sisters if you love them. You just can't simply point it out in a feeble way because you don't want to hurt their feelings and don't want to lose their friendship. Say, just one cotton-picking minute. Do you realize what you're doing to this kid? See? You were mistreated as a kid. Now look what you're doing to them. Do you think that's right? I know you've... See what I'm saying? You've got to say something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they say, don't tell me how to raise my children.
Yeah.
And I see in my family severely abused children.
Listen, there's only so much you can do.
I've spoken up, and then at the taking the chance of not being able to see my beloved niece and nephew, who I adore, by speaking up, she'll say,
Let me tell you this.
Get out.
Your beloved niece and nephew will remember you later on. Years from now, they'll remember that you stood for something, and they'll never forget. There's a memory there. Don't think that they won't be destroyed because you will have planted a seed.
Oh,
That's nice, thank
beautiful.
you.
You will have
That's
planted
good,
a little
thank
seed because in that moment someone was there for them.
Yeah.
See? There's nothing like that experience. You know why you're getting better? Because I'm here for you.
And my little nephew.
Is that right?
That's right.
That's right.
In other words, I am standing against the wall. I know you've been beaten. I know you've been bruised. I know you've been violated and adulterated and mistreated. And you know, I know all those things. But I won't stand still and do like all the other preachers with their sickly little smile. And then Jesus loves you. You know, are you saved by the blood? You know, you know. I'm not going to do all the usual stuff. I'm telling society, you're a bunch of rotten eggs, and you parents are wrong. You're destroying your kids. You psychiatrists, you're crazy. You teachers, you're nuts. Now this is all the things that kids know, but has anybody ever stood there and said, "See what I'm saying?" No, all I'm doing is confirming in your heart what you already know. That is a powerful thing. See? Go ahead. Diva.
How do you control your emotions when you've been married 15 years and you have a husband
That tells you a lot.
that
Tells
will
me a lot
not-
about your husband.
No, that won't.
Well, we
won't
have to
do
save that
anything
question.
around the house.
Can we save that question for
Oh.
tomorrow night, which will be in another 5
Yes.
seconds? I'm sorry, but the program is only going to be on the air for maybe for another week or so because we're running out of money, and I'm not much of a pitch artist, so there's two things you can do. You can buy the book, How to Control Your, well, we do have How to Control Your Emotions, but this one I'm holding up is How Your Mind Can Keep Well, and it will show you, teach you how it's done. We're not talking about the technique tonight, we're just talking about problems and why do we need to control our emotions, and it's not suppressing emotions, it's actually not having them and rising above them so that other people can't induce them in you for their own benefit, see? So I suggest you send $10 in. That's not very much money on it. If you can't afford it, we'll give it to you. That's simple enough too. What more can you ask for? And if you can't support the program, New Dimensions, I'll show you a different one from what I did last night. New Dimensions magazine is $36 a year. It's 64 pages. Used to be 32, but we're making it bigger and hoping that more people will indulge in its nectar. Thank you. It's very important that we get support, and please get off your duff and do something pretty soon. Otherwise, we won't be here for you. And if you feel this program is valuable, then it's a selfish thing to help us. Thanks for listening, and join us again.
Human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, Much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Negative Emotions, and we are discussing just that subject this evening, as we have for the past several evenings. You know, just what do we do with our emotions? I know what you do with them. Suppress them. You take it out on other people. You know, one man said it to me rather aptly. He says, I don't get ulcers, I give them. See? In other words, you can be perfect. You can get rid of your emotions by just dumping it on somebody else, but they've got them. And then they do with them. It's making them ill. And they either suppress it or express it. If they express it, they dump it on somebody else, and then it poisons somebody else. It puts an identity into that person. It creates a crisis, a trauma. And it creates all kinds of diseases and conflicts. This is what's wrong with our society. There's no love. There's only emotions. And love that we have is not really emotion. I mean, it's not really love at all. We just love horse racing and whiskey and wine and drugs and music. We just love everything like that. But love is still an emotional state. And an emotional state, whether you hate something or you love something, you know, let me put it this way. Pleasure is not the opposite of pain. Who understands that? It's not. It's the same thing. It's still a spiritual, a soul-deadening experience to the outside. That's the whole purpose of emotion, whether it's love, things you like give you pleasure, or things you hate. See? Now what happens is that if you hate somebody and you feel guilty afterwards, how do you get rid of the hate, the guilt? You go to pleasure. Now, the pleasure is just another, the evil has the same guy with the horns is controlling the pleasure reaction as he is the pain reaction. He knows that when you're upset, you're separated from happiness. So now he's going to give you happiness. He's going to give you pleasure. He's going to give another source of excitement to relieve the guilt. See, and then you overreact to his offerings, and in rushes this fulfillment, but even it's still a reaction to the outside. Pleasure sensitizes you to the outside and desensitizes you to the inside common sense. It's mind-spirit deadening, so you don't have to feel guilty. But, see, what's happening is that pleasure sets you up for pain, and pain sets you up for pleasure. And either way, know who gets inside. Is that right? So there's no happiness, really. Now, we're speaking about now emotions, and I do want to hog the whole half hour, but they won't let me. Will you? No. All right. So now you have a question about it's a carryover from last night.
Yeah, I've been married for 15 years, and I'm married to a policeman, and he's very domineering, you know, with me and the kids. And
is he cruel?
He's
Is
just...
he watching this program tonight?
I don't
Because I
know.
won't answer this question on the grounds it might incriminate me.
I don't, but he controls my emotions a lot, because
No,
his way is always right, and
Well, is he always right?
No, he's not. But what I'm learning from you is not to fight back and believe what, you know, like
Go ahead
I
and
know
believe what
what's
you want to
right.
believe anyway.
But why let him, you know, why should I
Intimidate
react
you.
to him?
Don't let him intimidate you.
But I'm still getting these feelings
You've got to learn, because when you react to his intimidation, you're acting like an infant. You're acting like a coward, and you're actually strengthening the bully in him. You see, because he married you because he knew that you would be submissive or subservience. See, and this is what he needs. Cowards associate with bullies, and bullies associate with cowards. And there's a reason why cowards associate with bullies, because they're professional losers. They're born losers, and they don't know how to win. They only know how to react like infants to to authority and lose. So, but there's a benefit to this, because they discover a benefit. No one has to, you don't have to go to school to learn this benefit, but you acquire it in a sort of psychic way. So it's like everybody goes to the same school without realizing it. You know what that benefit is by being a loser? You get to judge the one, in other words, your subservience, because you cringe and you give in and you don't say anything and you go along, right, for peace. It looks like love. It looks like love because you're the one that's always good, always sacrificing, and the other one's so cruel and mean and thoughtless, and you're always one that's thoughtful and giving of yourself. You're not really giving of yourself, you're just gutless. You're a slave, you see, and you hate this person, but there's a resentment of this person that's made you this way from the very first time it happened to you with a mother or father. But you don't know how to be any other way, okay? So you're a loser, but how do you get to be a winner when you're always being subservient and being kind? You get to be, what you do is you give up because you don't know how to do any other way, that you're a servant of the beast. Remember I said the other night, you're the beast in the system, or the servant of the beast. You don't know how to be any other way, so that you end up serving. And you serve the bully, and the bully becomes meaner, and you get to judge him. So you're creating a devil for you to judge, so he gets obviously rotten. But you are angelic, you suffer, you're a martyr, see? And that you always, everybody sees that you're suffering and giving of yourself and so kind and wonderful, but you're creating a monster. What you do your ego is actually creating something evil so that you can look good. See? So you get to judge this evil. Someone took a big sigh just now. Was that you?
I thought I was going to be a saint, I guess, because of what religion taught.
Well, the religion justifies this position, because then you transfer that to the church.
Because I was in a convent for 9 years, and in the 9th year I walked across the playground, and I said...
Almost that you walked across the water.
I said, I was so angry, and I had been listening to you, so I was conscious I was angry, because I had no one to relate this emotion to. I mean, after all, you weren't allowed to show it in the convent. And
but you're allowed to have it. See, they create it.
Yeah, you were allowed to have it.
And
right. And I realized I wasn't going to become a saint with a small s, and I better get out of there before I go to hell. Literally.
So now you understand that?
I definitely do now.
But I'm talking to this lady now. I've just come away from you. Forgive me. I didn't mean to be rude or anything. But you see the point now? What you have done now is that you've selected this man, because this man is probably like the father in your own life, like your dad, see, that you hated. And of course, there's another course of behavior, because you may have had a weak dad, and you may have...
Very weak mother.
Weak mother.
And I always had to serve my mother, and I always had to do for her. And
so what you've got is a mother in your husband. You got it. What you got it. See, what you're trying to do is that you had to serve a dominating woman, and you hated her, but you didn't want to become like her.
mm-hmm.
See, you didn't want to become like her. So how do you not become like her? You have to preserve the situation. You have to be subservient, because you hate the bully. So if you're not careful, you'll become a bully, because you become like what you hate, don't you? So in order to police yourself, to avoid from becoming like what you hate, you had to marry a man just like your mother. See? Who's also a bully. Actually, a man like that is a woman inside, because he must have had a mother like that to make him that way.
His mother died when he was 11, but his father was cruel and a bully and dominant. Everything he is.
Yes.
You know.
Well, anyway, I blew that one, but
No, it's right, because he's being just like his father.
Well, yes, he's being like his father because of a woman in his life, though. You see, his father was also a mother inside. Don't you see? That's remember we had a discussion not long ago that said that men are not naturally cruel.
Mm-hmm.
Men have, at birth, a gentle, common sense decency at birth, if it could be nurtured. See? The trouble is, because of the lineage of original sin, men are not men. Adam was the first man who wasn't there for his woman, because he's deserted what was there for them both. Follow that? And therefore he became a mortal person. The sensuous nature awakens. Remember we were speaking about when we respond to temptation, the inner man stops growing, and a man from the earth springs up, so that your sensuous nature grows and grows. It's ego, animal nature. It evolves, and pretty soon the real man gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and the dark-natured man gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But the dark-natured man is not from God. It's from the woman. It's from the spirit of the woman that he fell to. It's not the woman's fault that this happened to him. It was through her, but not her fault. Follow that? It's his own weakness for the excitement of becoming a god. See? And all men have that weakness. They want to be God. That's what you think drugs are, and dope and cocaine. It gives you the idea that you own the world, that you are the all-powerful, that you could jump off a building and fly or something like that. It gives you the illusion that you're God. It's the forbidden fruit. It's a serpentine dope pusher that provides the fix. Well, it started this way, and with men, you see, with children, there's never been a man to balance the woman. There's never been a spirit of a man to love the hell out of the woman. It always loves the hell in, and therefore embraces it, loses itself in it, and finds itself through it. Follow that? See? So there's never been a man, or rarely been a man, on this earth that's ever been really a man with his children. It's always been an animal, an ape. See, it didn't have that gentle soul, that noble quality that's missing, that tempers the woman effect on the children. See, and all the children are then they get their identity from their mothers, never their fathers. No such thing doesn't exist. Such an experience that a child gets his identity from his father, because if he gets it from his father, who's cruel, it's only the cruelty of his mother, because we're talking about the love. Love like that is violent. It's cruel. It's deceptive. It's vicious. That supports a man. The love of a dope pusher for the addict, is that love? Is the rock and roll musician's love for the music addict, is that love? It's violent. It's seductive. It's cruel. It violates the brain. As it reassures you, any love that reassures you that you're okay when you're not okay has to be violent. It has to be exciting. Real love is not exciting from the outside. My love for you is not that exciting, only if you get mad at me. We'll talk about that later on, what happens to you if you get mad at what I'm saying. Follow what I'm saying, though? So, there's no such thing as getting your identity from your father. Only if your father is his mother. You see what I mean? You've got a husband just like your mother. See, or like his father, which is a mother. The mother, the bond to the mother is there because men don't have to have a bond with God. They look to the woman. They dip into the woman's nectar. They look to her for all who they are, to complete that. See, human beings have two cycles. Animals have one cycle. They renew their life through the female, from where they came. They came from the female, they go back to the female. But in man's fallen nature, he comes from the female, goes back to the female for his renewing, and the renewing of life itself, because he's death-centered. But one thing is, man has two cycles. He substitutes one for the other, because his ego grows from that bond. The whole process of denying the truth of what he's become, that he's an ape instead of a monkey, instead of a man. See what I mean? A dog instead of a god. Is involved more deeply in the renewing with a woman. Who understands that? See? And the women are jealous of when a man starts to become introspective and starts to be a little more distant, she starts to get jealous of his introspective, because she becomes the god of him wanting to be God. You understand that? He's not the god. She's the boss maker, but she's greater than the boss. She makes him feel like he's the boss, but she's the boss maker, greater than the boss itself. There's a power thing in there, a security that comes from lying to him and making him fail, making him need her. See? Having the same relationship with her that he would have with God. This is what creates the violence in him, because he feels trapped. He doesn't understand that. because he blames the woman rather than, isn't that typical? But that's more anger, see? Now you must stop, you must quit supporting your husband's ego by giving in to him. Because you're only supporting your own judgment. Do you understand that now? Is that clear, ladies and gentlemen? She's selfish when she's giving in to him, because she knows he's going to become more violent, more unreasonable, and she gets to judge it. And she looks good, and he's the bad. And that's her sense of victory. She's the God, and he's the dog. And the world will give you sympathy if you're a battered lady. So you have to stop that whole process. And the moment you do that, the minute you start to give up loving him and lying with him, first of all, you have to give up hating him. Because it's the guilt of that makes you lie with him. Is that right? See? That's a vicious cycle, isn't it? But the minute you give up hating the man, you are now operating from the divine presence. You're broken with the past. You've broken the Adam and Eve cycle. You're not feeding, you're not falling and not feeding the beast. Not falling to the beast and feeding him. You're not feeding your judgment. If you're not feeding your judgment, you're not separating from reality to be greater than God. See what I'm saying? And the minute that happens, you get this inner reward. Anytime you can give up resentment towards somebody, you know what happens to you? You have a sense of victory. A little joy, a spring in your step. Okay? Who wants any questions here? Good Lord. No questions? Again?
Yes.
All right, well, let's do it then.
Okay.
You dummies better speak up too. Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Are we getting around to your...
I think you hit me right here, previously when you said I was, destroying my son. I mean, I feel that. I already feel that. And I know from what you say that how it's possible.
Yes.
But
what do you do?
what do I do?
You meditate. That's what you do.
But you say I'm doing it wrong.
But you have been doing it wrong. What you've been doing is been listening to my instructions, get caught up with Roy Masters, and hypocritically absorbing the ideas, and then when it comes to it, you're programming yourself to remember not to be angry, but all you're doing is with your own will suppressing your own emotions. You're doing it all yourself.
Okay.
You're still prideful.
Right.
See?
Okay, I see that.
You've got to be. You haven't come to the objective state. See, because you're still not willing to get rid of. You see, your suppressed emotions are still useful for you to keep you alive in that wrong way.
But I feel like I'm dying from it.
But you're dying. You're dying in a different way. You're not dying to truth. You're dying from it. So in other words, there's two ways to die. You die to the truth, or you die from it. And if you suppress your emotions, if you suppress those emotions, you'll die from those emotions. You've got to give up those emotions, and the way you give them up is to give yourself up to the light. See, because you've got to be. See, you've got to separate. The reason why you're so involved in your emotions and is because there's something about you that's not quite ready to take that step and to die. You're dying the wrong way, and you could say, "Oh, well, maybe I'm doing what Christ teaches. I'm dying so I can be born again." No, you're never going to be born again the way you're dying, because you're just getting more emotional and repressing it and feeling tremendously guilty, and then getting upset with yourself that you can't do anything. Isn't that right? You get upset with yourself.
Yeah.
But you're finding more reasons to be upset. You're getting upset with me because it isn't working, because you think I'm teaching you, and you're finding more reasons to be upset. Frustration with me because you're not able to make the meditation work. And you're finding little reasons that, see what I mean?
You're absolutely right.
And you're maybe not showing these emotions, but you're still milking all these emotions for all they're worth. I mean, you can get frustrated because you're seeing your problem even. You can even see your problem and then realize you can't do anything about it. And then that's really a shock to the ego, and then you get frustrated because you get resentful because you can see it. Because if you couldn't see it, you wouldn't be upset about it. See what I'm saying? It goes round and round. You get frustrated because You can see a problem and can't do anything about it, and it goes over and over and over again. You're just secretly finding more reasons to be angry. What I'm saying is, when you see yourself becoming angry, if you could meditate properly and learn to prepare yourself for the event of dealing with your son, and it's in this state whereby you can see the emotion beginning to rise. And because you're not part of the process and not caught up in it, in the downdraft of the emotion, and not willing to milk it for that moment for what it's worth, see? There's like a moment of truth, like a commitment. It's almost like a commitment. And until you make that commitment, you can't separate. You can't separate from the milk, the nectar of what you need, which is associated with your body. You have to identify with your thoughts, and you have to identify with your feelings, see? And you have to be connected to the things that upset you, and you need the upset in order to be alive. See? All right, but until you make that commitment, you can't separate. You can't, because it means death with no other way of finding life. You understand? Am I taking this too fast? See?
No, but I feel that, on the other hand, I've had an experience where I met the moment of truth successfully. Now, am I saying...
Successfully once, successfully twice. If you can do it once, you can do it twice. And if you can do it twice, you can do it 3 times. And if you can do it 3 times, you can do it 4 times once you make that commitment. And it's the same with the other side. If you don't do it once, the first time you steal a penny, you feel the excitement. No one's looking. You steal it. You cross the border. You've yielded to the temptation. Excitement motivated you. You felt this uprush of, you know, when you steal something, you feel the heart, boom, 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 the heartbeat, and the rush, and you do it. And then you guilt. And all of a sudden, you find now you're more sensitive to 2 pennies. $1 million would be just more than you can stand. Right? More excitement than you can stand. See, you're becoming sensitive. Once you steal a penny, it's easier to steal 2. It's easier each time. But once you learn to overcome the emotion once, then with that victory, you go on with the next. And you don't stop. And after the emotion, each time you give up an emotion, when you could have been emotional, every time you've forgiven when you could have been resentful and angry, you are that much closer to reality, with that much more wisdom about what your problems really are. And when you have much more answers to the problems that they really are, they unravel.
That's what happens at good time.
They unravel. They give way to the light. You see? Can I give you an example with a boat?
Please.
You know, you're going through the ocean, and there's a hole in your boat. The water's coming in. What are you going to do right away? What's the first thing you do? No, she says bail out. That's what you do.
The water.
Plug up the hole.
What about the hole?
Oh, yeah.
What about the hole in your head? You see, because if you keep trying, if it was possible to bail out whatever problems you have in your head, as long as the hole is still there and your troubles are rushing in, the outside world is filling you up still and making you heavy and earthbound and sinking. And sometimes it feels like you're sinking, doesn't it, in a swamp? See, then you're just futile. But the trouble is you can't possibly do that because you're too busy bailing out. You haven't got the energy to solve the problem. Now, the wisdom is to plug up the hole. And then you bail out the boat. At least then you get somewhere. Otherwise you're bailing, all of a sudden you run out of strength. You can't anymore, you sink with the boat. You've got to have some logic here. So you have to, now what is the plug in your boat?
Okay.
Now, you have to understand that the ego enters, the ego identity, which is not the true one, the false one, came into you through an emotion called resentment. It entered, and now it needs that emotion. It needs that, let's say the emotion was resentment or anger, that was the example I gave. You will find it's like a homing salmon. It has to go back to the source of what made it to renew what it is. Everything has to go back to its creator. In this case, you go back to your recreator. You are created through temptation. And The temptation in your childhood caused you to become very resentful towards your mother or your father, and in comes that emotion. Now you find that who you are is connected to having someone like that to react to. You marry it, you react to your boss, everyone that way. You're subject to the world, you become more and more sensitive, but you got to, so therefore what you are now has an origin. It's just like the sap in a tree. The sap keeps rising in the tree, it's still the same sap, but then the longer it's there, the bigger the tree grows. If you cut the sap, the tree will die. Now the sap of who you are and all your problems is growing into branches and apples and pears and leaves and blossoms. Cut that emotion. Stand back, learn, there you are, there's the root of my wrong self. And learn to be patient and forgiving, and that's the secret of life right there. And then you can deal with all the rest of the problems that have grown from it, but not a minute before. Okay? New Dimensions magazine, $36 a year. Please keep us on the television with your support. If you don't, this may be the last week. And I'm on radio, KIEV here in Los Angeles, 870 on the dial at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. And the book, which will be mentioned at the end of the program, is $10, but the cassettes and the book is $33.50. And suggest you learn to control your emotions, and then join us in our next program so we can teach you more about it.
The foundation of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Hello, welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Negative Emotions. And we are talking about just that subject. It's a carryover from last night as far as the audience, television audience is concerned. And we have the same audience, and we're continuing with the same trend of thought. It's emotions and the harm they do, and the lie that is perpetrated in our society that is emotion is normal and natural. It's only right to be upset, and it's good to have a good time and get all the gusto you can. And I'm saying baloney. And not only baloney, that I challenge any psychiatrist or psychologist who thinks he can argue with me to a discussion, public discussion, not on my program, but on a public forum somewhere. Because I rather talk to these dear souls here who really want to, who recognize that their emotions are their problems, and there's no such thing as a good emotion. I don't care what they say. And of course that's going to upset you right away, so don't get upset, because you're going to need my cassettes and my books to calm you down. And I warn you that if you get upset with me, I'll prove my point. You won't be able to forget what I'm saying. It depends on the severity of your upset. And usually, because of the nature of the subject matter, which is pure truth, oh, that'll upset you too. Who the hell do you think you are? That's the reaction to that. There's a great sense of indignity, indignance about what I'm saying. But if you overreact to my positiveness, my total confidence in what I'm saying, if I shake the ground, your ego ground, the security of your own self-righteousness, like a lot of you are self-righteous, and if I shake that ground of being, you're going to become very, very angry and very hateful, and you're going to find yourself at odds with the truth that's coming through me. And it's a very dangerous I'm warning you, I don't want it to happen to you. If you're going to watch this program, cool it. Control your emotions. You probably won't be able to do it. You probably want to turn this off right now, but you can't. And then probably say, oh, I'll prove to him I can turn it off, and then I've lost my audience. So hang in there. Just listen. See if you can control your emotions while you're listening. And because all I'll be doing to you, if you can't, will be throwing you out of control, which means I'll be in control. Now that's not the way to be. If you're upset with me, that's simply a defense. When you're upset, remember we were saying before that when you're upset, it's a way of denying the truth. Because when you're emotional, you get caught up with the uprush, and your senses are opened, and your outer eye is opened, and the inner eye is closed, and it dulls the soul. It doesn't have to realize how wrong it is. There's a danger in being angry with me, though. I'll make you realize how wrong you are. Because the truth is in two places. It's inside you, your conscience. It's outside you, inside me. And I'm not going to let you get away with it. So what's going to happen is if you react to me and to what I'm saying angrily in an attempt to deny the truth of what I'm saying, which has worked in the past, what will happen is the very truth you're trying to deny happens to be on the outside. See, your truth, your conscience is on the inside, so therefore if you react to something unfair, unjust, or whatever it is, it tends to make you feel right. Hating wrong makes you feel right. Hating anything you hate would be wrong in your eyes, even if it was right, right? So the hate would make you feel right. Hating wrong is like being right. A lot of people hate wrong and think they're right. And they think they have to hate something wrong. And they're always looking for something wrong to hate because that's how they are conditioned to feel right. When you judge a human being, when you hate, some people are always judging other human beings, always looking for something to judge, because if they didn't have anything to judge, they'd have a sense of judgment on themselves. So they stay ahead of the judgment on themselves by looking for something wrong in the world to get upset about, and then they are judging and caught up with the judging of something and forgetting the judgment on themselves. But then there's a greater guilt. And then they have to have something even more annoying, upsetting, and unjust to judge, to get caught up in judging. So they're the judge, always right, never wrong, and escaping the judgment on themselves. Do you see how that works? But in this particular case, ladies and gentlemen, my dear television viewer, I'm absolutely correct, and you're wrong for being upset. Now, I'll make a challenge to you right now. Go ahead and be upset and see if you can feel right about yourself. Go ahead. Give it a try. You'll see that you won't be able to go to sleep. Your conscience will conflict. Over and over and over again, you won't be able to get out your mind. You'll get upset with yourself. And eventually you're going to say, yeah, I thought he was crazy. Now I see who's crazy. It's me. And if you get there, you're in good shape. But if you don't get there, well, I won't tell you what's going to happen to you. Now, where's the questions from the audience? All right?
What do you think about healing of memories?
What?
Healing of memories?
What's that mean?
Well, there's different priests and different spiritual people that
I don't answer questions about that. We're talking about, what do I think about the price of onions? I think they're too high. See, it's a wasted question. Can we have a question that is relevant to our own lives? Yeah, the gentleman back there. There's just to be two people that be asking the questions all the time. And those of you who are in the audience who are sitting quiet and not participating are really missing a great opportunity. And one of the reasons why you're not participating is because you're afraid that I'll draw you out and expose you. So you just sit and listen, try to learn as much as possible. Intellectually. See? You're sitting there quietly, not wanting to be discovered. Is that right or not?
Yeah.
Why don't you open your big fat mouth and let it come out, and then you'll find out whether you're right or wrong or not. Okay, now. Sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but
I have a question about objectivity. You know,
Yeah.
I've practiced your meditation, and I've noticed in the past I have moments where
can you get a little closer to him? It's a bit. Can you get a little bit closer? It'd be nice if you could just muscle your way between the front rows there. Go ahead. Go ahead. That's fine.
I've noticed with myself in the past, I'll have moments where I'll become extremely objective, and the experience it's not my normal state of consciousness. It's like looking through a pair of binoculars the wrong way, where the world becomes, that's what it feels like.
Beautiful.
Right.
You get used to it.
It's a very.
You get used to it. I do that all the time.
Right, and it's very, and when those moments, they'll just come on me, and I wish that I know that that's the place where I should be. I feel that's a very blessed state.
But
just it leaves, and then I don't stay there.
Why not?
That's the question.
What happens when you don't stay there?
It just seems to come and go. It's like I phase in and
do you encourage it? Is it happening more and more?
It seems like it's happening more. Yes.
Good. We're on the right course.
But there's I guess the question is, what can I do to encourage that state when it comes?
No, you're doing it. Just a steady growth. If you could stay in that objective state all the time, you'd be able to control nature. First of all, you control your own nature. And then you can control the things around you. You wouldn't be controlling them like with an iron will, to create a pile of gold or something just because or turn water into wine. I mean, not right away. I'm talking about the first thing you have to learn to do is to control your own nature and not let nature or the nature of things around you, the stresses, the temptations of life, infiltrate and take the place of your own controls and the God-given, disciplines that should be there for your character development, you see. So now you're in the stage of separating from your old selfish ego self with its subjectivity to the nature of the things around it, where things used to serve you. You remember what we said a little while ago, in your desire to be something you can never be, which is God, in your escape mode, you're very emotional and open to the world, and you grab all the gusto you can, and you think the beer, the wine, and the drugs, and the music. I mean, if you just watch on television how the singer singing this song to millions of people, but everybody in their own stupid heads. I mean, stupid is the right word. I mean, really stupid. That really gets people, see, excuse me. They all think that song is being sung to them. That lady singer, isn't that funny? I can't think of a lady singer. Think of one. Barbara Streisand. She's singing this song, and she's singing it to all this audience, but every person in that audience thinks that song is for them alone. You go to church? You're not going to church worshiping God. You are the God being worshipped. The stained glass window is for you. You feel holy. You look very, very carefully how people use religion to make themselves, they draw the religiosity through their senses and they feel like they're good, like God, see? So you see, but the senses seem to serve you. Ego, there's a selfishness you have with every religion, drugs, food, sex, everything, people, each other, everything. We ravage the earth, sensing in the imbibing, the essence, fulfilling our inner parts, see, and becoming earthbound. That's the sensuous, the ego-sensual man. You follow that? And so that's what. But now you're going the opposite way. You're becoming more objective and laying down those emotions and those sensuousness. You find that you get to a certain point where you wake up one morning and things that used to look good to you, music, for example, that's something obviously unnecessary. Very necessary to the deadheads, right? The people who are alive only because they're caught up in something sensual, right? That spiritually deadening experience, like music. They think it's spiritually aliving because it's the wrong spirit. It's alive in the music. You see the difference? So you see, one morning you wake up where you had a stereo and you had all these beautiful records and everything, and all of a sudden, seconds, maybe it could be seconds, it could have, you don't have to wake up one morning, you could be just in the middle of a stereo, enjoying your favorite concerto or rock and roll. All of a sudden, you feel distant. And all of a sudden, it's a kind of, what am I listening to this for? So it happens because sex can do the same thing to you, by the way. What am I doing? What the hell am I doing this for? See? It's a kind of stupid position. See? You could find yourself... Anybody know what I'm talking about? How many people know what I'm talking about? You're growing up. The first man is of the earth. Man is first born of nature, then of spirit. The first man was from spirit. He came down to nature. Man comes through nature, his mother and father. So the first man has to grow wrong first. If there wasn't... Don't think you can't be right from birth. There's no way in the world, because your ego animal nature has to grow first. It's the wrong person that grows, because if there wasn't anything wrong, there wouldn't be anything to be made right. For who understands that? So don't feel bad about being wrong, because you're born in sin and then you're saved from it, and a new nature starts to take its place. You start to, lay down one and replace it with the other. It's a very slow process. It's a slow of refinement, a retuning, and re-examinations of our values. Who understands all this? Everybody? Hooray, 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 hooray. Okay, now, are you satisfied with that answer?
I think
Did I go too far with that answer? Did I go too far?
It's if I'm understanding you correctly, it's just a progressive experience, and as long as I continue to give up those things, the hate, the false love of the world, any of those kind of emotional comfort, then that state, it will come to me.
See, because the objective state is a new state of power. You don't feel it as power. Before, emotion gave you power, illusion of power. Now you feel it as powerlessness. When you're objective to the world, you can't get the energy and the excitement because there's a barrier there. You're detached. You're not connected. You're detached, see? But in this state, you are subject to a new set of laws which you're not fully conversant with at this point. And at this point, you find yourself disinterested in the thing. Let's say it's your first step into being objective is music. It may not be, but I'm picking something kind of obvious, okay? Well, that state, your detachment has made you see music in its true light. So maybe you see that you're caught up with music, so you better not listen to it for a while. This is your solution, because you're too conditioned. See, and for everywhere you go, you hear music in elevators, and you start noticing that it pulls on you, and you stand back, and pretty soon you decide that you now can listen to music now because it's lost its conditioning factor. You can now listen to it intelligently. It's the same with wine too, and beer. You don't have to give it up completely, you see. You just have to stand back from it to lose its conditioning factor and then relate to it differently if you want to. You find that alcoholics don't have to give up drinking, in a sense. You can have a glass of wine with your dinner once in a while. He that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all his ways. Who said that? Paul, right? See? It's a tempering quality. So you see, that objective state serves a purpose for a little part of the journey. Now, when that journey is finished, the reward of that is another state of objectivity, another level. And in this state of objectivity, you start seeing other things. See? And then you start involving yourself with dealing with the details, watching this, watching that, de-energizing, coping. And then the end result of that is the reward of more objectivity. You see, you're always rewarded with more objectivity as it runs its course, as that particular objectivity runs its course. You follow that? Making sense?
Yeah, you're saying that as you become more objective and you see your wrong relationships with things and you become distant, then you see more, you see other wrong relationships, things you should give up.
As you give them up, it makes your mind clearer.
Right, and as long as you're obedient to that, then it's progressive.
Yes. You understand is that when you become objective and you see that this is wrong, and you enjoy the fact that you are no longer caught up with it, and you see that it's nothing when you thought it was something, and you're kind of puzzled. You're actually dealing with a power beyond yourself.
Is there a battle going on at the same time?
Pardon?
A battle, tell me.
Well, it's not a battle as you know it. You're dealing with forces beyond your comprehension. You wake up one morning and you see the music or whatever it is, or your wife or your children, and you see the whole world that where you once tremendously ambitious, suddenly you lost your feeling to get a lot of money. See, or suddenly you lose your feeling even to drink that much. You see, you say, well, this is ridiculous. You see it in a totally different perspective. Now, it is that something operating in that objective, different perspective that you're holding that's actually making you lose interest in that. Now,
You got into some dimensions far into it, but like before.
Well, let me just finish the point.
That's fine.
So now, the next time a guy says, "Hey, want to listen to a record?" I say, "No, thank you." And then you maybe have talked to them about what you've discovered, and to maybe talk them out of it. You start to be a little bit of an evangelist. You see, because you start to love other people, and you don't want if you have friends that smoke dope, you're trying to say, "Hey, man, look, I used to do that," and you find ways of talking people out of it, and helping people rather than going along with them, and as they went along with you. Now you start to not worry about their friendship, where you did worry about their friendship and support before. You smoked dope with them because you didn't want to be a prude or something. You didn't want to stand out. Who's following the point? So as you go through the course of the day and involve yourself in the social intercourse with these things, and the temptation comes along to have a glass of wine, or someone gives you a joint, as they call it, you say no to them. You're doing the right thing because you're now following through. It's the extension of your objective new way of life. At the end of the day, what's happened? You haven't been angry. You haven't smoked the joint. You haven't indulged in it. You heard the music, but you didn't lose yourself in it. You even smelled the joint from somebody else smoking it, but you didn't go from the next, sort of stealing his smoke. Right? You just smelled it, and you can't help but smell it, but you didn't get a rush from it. Follow what I'm saying? You just smell it, and you found yourself you're able to detach yourself from it and not derive the old values. You have not responded to temptation then that day. Guess what? Your mind suddenly becomes clearer. And it feels then you're in this objective state, another objective state. Now it starts to run its course again. After a while, you'll find yourself in an objective state, more so than not so, with a flow of new concepts and new ideas and new directions and new wisdoms and new character, new love. People won't know what's happened to you. There's a new person standing there. Your children won't know what's happened to you, what got into you. Who understands that? Is it happening?
I see it.
You do?
I see it.
Because you're relatively new to this, aren't you?
For the most part. But what I was meant is earlier is that I had a girlfriend about 4 years ago, and I got like this. I had this new awakening. I want to go back to her, but I feel kind of stupid. Like, what? Why should I go back? I mean, what's the big deal? Like, so weird. I feel.
But
weird
I understand the trend of thought that you're trying to project.
Well, what I'm saying is that I feel like there's a battle going on inside my mind, where I would like to go back and say, hey.
And to use it like you did.
No.
But in other words, the part of you that wants to go back and not use it like you did.
Yeah, like hey, I got a new answer.
Right. I'm sorry. I used you.
I'm sorry I screwed up, kind of deal.
Yeah, I used you.
Yeah.
Basically.
Right.
And I'd like to have a different relationship with you.
Right.
She may say, "To hell with you."
That's right.
She may still be into the use of,
I mean, it's like, why? Why do I want to do that for?
Out-using the user. See, women would be out-using the user.
Yeah.
You understand? That's how dope pushers, they out-use the user.
It's like I heard you say before, going back to the scene of the crime.
You want to do it right.
Yeah.
You say, can I take you out to dinner?
Sure.
And this time you treat her as a gentleman. This time she may want to entice you because she isn't into what you're into yet, see. And now you show this gentlemanly side and this caring side, and she may not like that. On the other hand, she might.
Right.
And if she doesn't like it, she won't answer your phone calls anymore. Well, they've solved the problem, and then you're free.
Sure.
Got it? Simple. Anybody else? Yes, there's another question. Gentleman right over there. Thank you very much.
Yes, is there something you said about, I find that my meditation is most effective when there's just a bit of a distraction, like on a...
Can you stand up a little bit so we can just, there's a sea of heads, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Right?
I find my meditation is very effective when there's a little bit of distraction, maybe on a beach and there's a waves. It's like, or maybe there's a...
If it's more effective with the beach and the waves, you're not meditating correctly. You do not need the assistance of anything. It's the assistant.
Because I find in meditation, my mind is looking at something, and if there's nothing, sometimes when I meditate, there's nothing in my mind. There's nothing I'm looking at.
You don't need to look at anything. There's not anything special that you're asked to perceive.
But even you say that you need to distance yourself from something. So in a way, you're looking at something.
You only distance yourself from the distraction in your own head. That's all. And then it stops rising. You just want to not be caught up in the distraction. When you find yourself, all you need to do is sit quietly. It's like so. Be aware of your hand. You try to stay in the moment. You try to stay in the moment in an objective state. And you try to be aware of the thoughts going past your head. Now, the idea is that the thoughts are cyclic. They move from one side of the brain to the other, just like a tape recorder sort of thing. And you're caught up in them like a whirlpool. And if you're caught up in them, you're not able to do anything about them. You're subject. And the whole idea now is to become separate from, detach yourself from the emotional thought process. And it's not an easy thing, because it takes a lot of practice, many, many years of practice. But to begin is to become a new person. Even if you could just detach yourself 1/1,000,000th of a second before you get caught up again. Something comes through that 1,000,000th of a second. Something is introduced from one world into another, which will make you a different person. Who understands that? You don't have to be objective you can't do it. You can't be objective all the time. You cannot do it because you'd vaporize. You couldn't handle all the truth that was there. You couldn't. It's like getting sunburnt. You got to get used to the sun a little at a time. Got it?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but no, I've been in this objective state for years and years. I've always been able...
You're becoming objective for years and years, but...
Well, when I first heard you, I knew exactly what you were saying, and I started doing. I got your meditation, and I knew to myself I was doing that.
I've got to let you sit down for a minute, because we're ending of this section of the program. I've got to ask the viewers to support the program. If we don't, then the program won't stay on the air. We need some response. So can we have some response to this program? Either support, financial support. You know, just make it like you send to Jim Baker, except it's me. You know, what does he do for you? He collects money from the Lord, and then he keeps it for himself. Well, I use it to support this program, and I thank you very much. KIEV Glendale here in Los Angeles can be heard Monday through Friday at 9 o'clock a.m., Monday through Friday, so you can hear me for an hour, as well as this program, if this program stays on the air. 870 on the dial, that's right. Thank you very much. And because this magazine is the New Dimensions, and $36 a year, right to the foundation. The address is about to be shown on the screen. Thank you, and join us in the next program.
Of human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the foundation of human understanding, Here is Roy Masters.
Hello, welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Emotions, and we're coming down the stretch for this week. We've been speaking about emotions and anger and all that sort of thing and what it does to us, and we haven't spoken about what kind of sicknesses it produces, but we've spoken mostly of the psychological effect it has on ourselves and others. And since we're coming down the stretch here for this last half hour for the week, we'll talk to that young man right back there who had his hand up. Could you stand up, please? Thank you, Rem.
Yeah, Roy, I just wanted to ask you about this anxiousness that as soon as I started meditating, it went away almost immediately. It's like the anxiousness went away. I became more distant. Is that normal? I mean, is that hypnotic? Or
No.
Is that what I'm supposed to go through?
I tell you, since you brought the subject
About
up...
90 days I've been doing it.
How many?
About 90 days.
Good, you're doing fine.
That's what I'm supposed to expect?
Yes. This is what happens. Now we're coming to the other side, the more positive side of the emotions. And since the young man, what's your first name? Steve. Since Steve brought this up, let's explore it a little bit, okay? Now we're talking about a meditative technique that makes you objective, means separates you from your thoughts. It's like the airplane on the ground, subject to laws of the ground. Taxis along the ground, and all of a sudden it leaves the earth, and now it's subject to the laws of the air. The laws of the air. Same thing with meditation. As long as you're grounded in your thoughts, you're subject to the laws of the earth. So you can't help but react and do dumb things and develop this dumb personality that hurts everybody else and hurts itself because it has to suppress, because it can't express, right? So now you're in the air, in this objective state. Now you have you're obeying new laws. You can't help it. You're going to become a better person whether you like it or not. It's not really correct to say that because you're obviously going to like it. But new forces are operating through you just because you're objective. Just like when you weren't objective, the forces were operating through you. Now, the only way you're going to you can choose which force you want to operate you by deciding to meditate each morning and night to put yourself in that mode. See? If you're in that mode, then the forces of the air operate. If you don't, the forces of the earth operate. And you act like an animal and you feel guilty like a person. Animals don't feel guilty. So because you react like an animal and grow like an animal, you feel guilty unlike an animal. And you deal with your problems unlike animals. They don't drink and smoke and carouse and that sort of thing. See? You don't hear sheep killing each other. Not even wolves. They don't kill each other. I mean, there's an honor system there. So we human beings go beyond being animals. We're unhuman, inhuman. That's because of the force that we're dealing with, forces of good and evil. And if you want to be detached from the forces of evil, which operate in the earth mode, being grounded, not being objective, where your ego gets all its fulfillments and joys, and you live in this world of fantasy and forgetfulness, you have the illusion of being something you're really not, right? Then you operate, you don't meditate. Forget my material, forget the book, How Your Mind Can Keep You Well. Don't think of this book, How Your Mind Can Keep You Well. Just forget I ever said it. Okay, and what was I going to say now? And just forget to meditate. Don't do it, and you'll keep being the kind of jerk you've always been, right? And most of you are here because the conflict of being a jerk and being an earthy person is conflicting with your original intent. When you were a child, you were searching for the meaning of existence, unlike those around you. They probably sensed you were different and tried to destroy you. For a little while you became like them, but you don't like being like them, even though you're not. You are like them. You don't like the way you are. They love the way they are. They love each other. They love other people who are like them, and they love each other. And thieves and robbers love each other, right? So, what profit they? See? But you are now, your soul, because of its purity, because of its original design, can no longer be compatible with what other people still love. They're pigs all the way through. Therefore, they don't see anything wrong with, wallowing in the slop. It seems perfectly natural, but it's not natural to you because your potential is different. And that's what makes you search, and that's what makes you find your teacher, like myself. I got through for you. There aren't many people that get through, but I managed to get through sane. Now I'm going to try to encourage you to come through too. See, there's one of us has to get through once in a while. There's got to be a Moses, to deal with pharaohs and Israel. There's got to be one of us, see? And so here I am, and here you are, and you hear me, and you understand me, and you appreciate where I'm coming from, and because you recognize the transparency, the Spirit, through my transparent ego, you know what, you're not attached to me, hopefully, but you start to believe in what you see in me, and immediately that confirms what you always knew was right in yourself, and that is called salvation. Christ was the first person to ever do that. If Christ's Spirit is in the person, he has that same power to be transparent. You understand that? That's the whole therapy here. All this blabber that's coming out of me is I'm just showing off. At the same time, I'm showing you how much I know about your problems more than you know about yourself, because I have insight from my Spirit, my Holy Spirit. And you recognize this man understands me. This man is reading my mail. This man's thinking, I've thought those thoughts, but I've always doubted them. You know, I was at that place where he is now, maybe a long, long time ago when I was a kid, but I thought I was wrong, so I gave up what I thought was wrong, which was really right. And I couldn't lick them, so I joined them. And you couldn't get back, and you want to get back. I'm saying the only thing that's ever wrong with you, the only thing you ever did wrong, was to doubt what you know was right. You were different, and that difference has never gone away. You may have become like the world in many ways, but you've never been disconnected from reality. When I was a young man, I reacted like everybody else, so when I became upset, I had thoughts. And those thoughts, I say, hey, that's interesting. Those thoughts, that's something wrong with those thoughts. I can't go on through through life like this. I have to do something about these thoughts. I have to find out, why do I have these bad thoughts? See? Why can people upset me? Why can people put thoughts in my mind? I can't take them out. But I was never disconnected from reality. But when people react in a bad way and they do bad things, what do? They make excuses. And then excuses cuts them off from the fact that they did anything wrong. And then they feel okay that they're okay again. See? And then the whole life, but that sets them up to do another thing wrong. Instead of examining that thing wrong, they used to make excuses. They get drunk. Whatever. When the excuses don't work, they need experiences to help the thought process, the rejection process. Follow that? Who understands what I'm thinking? Okay. Now, that's the whole thing. With what I'm teaching you to do, is confirm what you've known all along. You've never heard anyone confirm it. And it isn't any good for anyone to confirm it unless he's coming from the right place. Because you have to have a believable messenger. How can you believe it if it's not a believable messenger? You have messengers saying the same thing, but they're not believable. Therefore, don't you see? It's the very fact that you can see the believable messenger in here and actually see where I'm coming from. You can see beyond me. And this beyond me is speaking to you. And because I open up and it shines through me and you see that, and it simply confirms everything you've always known. Well, if you believe me, then you're going to believe the same thing that's in you. You can't believe what's in me and not believe in yourself again. Be restored to the original faith that you once had. Other people make you doubt. See, and I help you to believe. I help restore you to the original ground of your being. But as to the question, how do we deal with the emotions, the anxiety and the pain? That's what it's a long-winded answer, but how do you deal with this is now you're becoming detached, you're obeying the laws of the air, something's happening just by being objective. It's all you have to do is to be objective. So when you feel anxiety, when you feel the bones aching, like they're itch, they like a, you know what it's like to have someone scratch on a chalkboard? Yeah, it's like, isn't it? It's a horrible feeling. It feels like your bones are crying out for something. The marrow of your bones are crying out for filling of some kind. If you just It's anxiety. It's a pain that drives people to commit suicide. It's so painful. But if you could just, it is only that serious when people are in the process of rejecting, realizing their helplessness and their hopelessness and their nothingness, and they resent knowing it. Then that pain becomes unbearable. But if you could just realize it's the truth that's creating a war, friction. There's two selves now. You in the objective state, and you're being slain in the spirit. You're being eroded. You've always renewed yourself through emotion. Now you're not doing it. Now you're staying there, and you're not thinking about tomorrow and thinking about candy bars and thinking about a drink. You're standing back, and you're not calling up Joe or Mary to get involved in an emotional conversation, whatever. You're standing back, and what you do is you become very aware, and you come toward the pain. Come toward the pain. Don't run from it. You've always run from it into pleasure. That's why you got worse. Come toward the pain, and just be aware of your body, and just feel feel the presence of your hands through the middle of your forehead, and feel the energy flowing from the mountain to the sea. Got it? And just go toward it, inwardly and outwardly. See, the more you sit still, the closer you come to the truth, and the more you come to the source of light, and there's a certain amount of pain involved. All of a sudden, you reach a certain threshold, and the pain starts to go away, and all of a sudden your whole body starts to warm up like you've had a hot toddy. You know, I haven't had a hot toddy for a long time, but I remember what it was like. When you have a cold and you have a fever and you have some whiskey and an aspirin or whatever it is, it's something like the lemon juice. All of a sudden, you start to, feel that warmth, and it's got the anxiety and the tension, and you've learned to fulfill yourself from within. You learn to depend on nothing. You'll learn that there's something within you that's more satisfying and fulfilling than anything that is possible in the outer world. And then you become dependent on doing that. And then you're free. Slowly but surely you're free. And the anxiety disappears, and it's less and less and less and less, because you keep doing it, curing it that way. Understanding me? Long-winded answer. The gentleman in the back there, he's waited 4 sessions to talk.
6 minutes. I have a question. Through the meditation, I have discovered very little as far as, I expected to see a very bright light and something like a sun in me, that I could see through my forehead. I've seen just little flashes here and there and little fuzzy lights, but nothing really that great no great revelation has come. But I sat still and I watched and I detached myself from little thoughts that do creep up here and there. But I've discovered that through the day, I am able to resist temptation so much better.
There's a boy.
That's
and,
a light.
Who understands what he's saying?
That's a light.
That's it.
And it's really...
It's that simple. It's just being, you see, it is, you're not going to have thunder and lightning and flashes of light going across the sky, for the most part. Some people who have been very traumatized, they may have some extraordinary experience, but for the most part, where the stress and pressures of life have molded and twisted and distorted and violated you and hurt you, and there's a relaxation. There's the beginning of a little anxiety which disappears. For many people, it isn't much to begin with. They may not even think they're succeeding in anything at all. You sit quietly, your thoughts run through your mind, and then you find yourself get caught up with thought. You come back to the moment. Goes another thought. Is that you're daydreaming again? There I'm daydreaming. Oh, darn it, I blew it again. I blew it again. 2 seconds later, there you are dreaming again. Is that right? Yeah. And yet, and then when you finish, you say, well, you feel a little bit more together. That's what you don't understand, but you feel a little bit more together. And you go out in the world, and lo and behold, something's different. And that's what this gentleman, don't stop. Don't stop. Because you go from revelation to revelation. Yes, any more, well, let's, the one lady behind you, because I got to, is the lady behind? Yes, because she hadn't spoken yet. Yeah, please, if you don't mind. Surely.
I used to meditate when I was 12 years old, a long time ago, which was kind of young.
How old are you now?
21. And
Good Lord.
I just started back. And,
It was a bit young to do it.
Yeah. but I still had like scary experiences, like evil trying to take you away, you know, from going to the right, you know, I knew I was doing the meditation right, and it kind of scared me. But now I just started about this week, I started again, and I just feel like pressure in my head, like whizzing or something like that.
All right, let me talk about that.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, good question. Now, pressure. There are two types of pressure. There's inner pressure. For instance, you know, everything on this earth is result of pressure. The pressure, air pressure on the ocean keeps the water from evaporating. And everything interreacts with everything else, and it's a pressure. As a matter of fact, glaucoma could be caused by simply, you know, the eyes being the weakest link in the pressure chain, see? But everything is heart gives out, just like a transistor radio, it may not blow at the same point, depending upon the manufacturer. The transistor may go, the coils may go, or something, you see. The speaker may, whatever the weakest link is. I'm saying that, but the thing is that whatever is created by pressure is sustained by pressure. And your reactions are part of that pressure order of things. You follow that? You work best under pressure, you function under pressure. You need a reaction in order to function, in order to hold this who you are together, to get the motivation to move and have your being, except it's the wrong one. Now, you've discovered that it is the wrong one, and now you're meditating, and now you're going to give up, learn not to react to pressure. You're not going to be pressured into this kind of existence anymore, because this kind of person that's pressured into existence is the wrong one. That's why you're guilty. You're now going to be created by an inner pressure. And now one of the reasons why people love pressure is because they need the involvement with the pressure in order to overreact to it, in order for the pressure to exist for them to exist as a person. At the same time, they forget what pressure is doing to them. Guilt. They're forgetting guilt. So therefore pressure, reaction to pressure, serves two purposes: to escape and to exist. No sooner have you existed than you want to escape again into pressure. And you draw who you are out of that pressure, but then it's the same cycle. You're guiltier. How do you deal with guilty? But there's a pressure inside and there's a pressure outside. Now you have a choice of two pressures, because you're made out of pressure. I mean, you've got to be the cause of some effect. Now, you see, your pride is the cause of one effect. You got your identity from the outside, and that way you escape from serving God and being your own Lord in your own imagination. Because when you're caught up in the pressure, you can never see the truth. You always think you're always right, never wrong. Whatever you're becoming has to be right. You're a drug addict. He has to take more and more and more drugs in order to be right and never wrong, right? And that's why he's getting rid of the conscience that shows him how wrong he is. See? He doesn't want to respond to that. He doesn't want to serve something greater than himself. He wants to be the greatest. Mr. Wonderful, always right, never wrong. It's an ego trip. But see, you're different. Am I going too fast? The pressure. Now we're talking about pressure. When you sit still and you come towards that. See, I never contradict myself, and I understand this so well, thank God I do. You're coming towards this and you're separating yourself from this pressure. You're coming away from the laws of the earth, because by your intent, your pure intent, you're willing to lay down this life that is drawn from the reaction process, denying one pressure, accepting the other, and building yourself out of it, which is the wrong self but thinks it's right. See? Now you're coming to the stillness and you feel this pressure inside you building up. There's a pressure. And it's the same thing, because if I was to want to corrupt you, this is what I'd do. I'd nag you, I'd punch you, I'd dig you, you see, I'd motivate you, I'd upset you, I'd be cruel to you, I'd put the pressure on you, and then you'd react, and you'd give in to the pressure, and then you'd become who you are from me. Then you become, who you are from me would be addicted to my pressure, my evil. My evil would grow in you, and you'd be my brainchild. Who understands that? When you give in to the pressure, you become made out of it. And that's the guilty self that's made out of that pressure. And that's you escape into that pressure in order to avoid seeing what it's done to you. Now comes the time for you to change worlds. You to die to that pressure, to that evil, and to come alive in the truth. And this is where you do it with the meditation. You become objective to yourself. Now the soul, which is the recipient of that pressure, the guilty. For instance, I can have a thought that's a bad thought. It doesn't happen very often. The last time it happened is a long time ago. But when I have a thought, I don't have to feel guilty because I have a bad thought. If the thought comes to me, because the thought just goes right by, I'm not indulging it. It's no man's land. I'm not that thought. The thought's coming. I can hear a thought. The thought can be transmitted to me by something. It can rise in my thoughts, and I can look at it, and I can do one of two things. I can indulge it, or I can just let it go by and not indulge it. In which case, my soul is not contaminated. Now it's the same with pressure. See? Emotions. This process, you let them all go by and you don't indulge in all those little... Because even your imagination can create thoughts and also recreate scenes. You see? And even if the pressure isn't there, you can imagine it. You know, you can think of being angry with somebody and you get angry even if nothing's there. See? You carry around a portable environment inside your head, and you can create a scene and you can react to it and get into it. You can have a fantasy with some pretty lady and arouse feelings and stimulate yourself as if it was really there, and lose yourself in the love of this pretty lady that was always good for a validation. You're never wrong with that lady. In her eyes, you're always right, right? So, you see, but you've let that thought go right by and you've not succumbed to the pressure. It is the soul or conscious spirit that is guilty of indulging. And it's only when so you don't dip into those thoughts. You let them all go by. You let the entertainers and the dancing girls and all go by. And when you've done that, now comes this inner pressure. And sometimes you'll feel it as a bolt of lightning, a shock, when it first happens to you. Anybody had this reaction of something inside? The jolt? Yeah. Like electrical jolt. Who's had that? Good. Well, it's like the first shock, except it's the inside that's getting inside you, not the outside that's getting inside. It is the inside that's driving the outside, what got in out. And it's establishing, it's like trauma. It's a counter-trauma. It's the spirit of truth that's getting you to react, planting itself in you. And this self is no longer compatible with the world. This self won't look to the outside, to people, places, and things anymore. See? And because it doesn't, God is always there rewarding it with His presence and life. You'll be always be the fact that you're objective means that God is always present. Always objective. That God is always present. You're subject to the laws of the air. Just like when you were subjective in your thoughts, the spirit of darkness was always there. Because it was always operating. You didn't know where these thoughts were coming from, and you didn't know where your behavior was coming from. You couldn't stop yourself. And the more badly you behaved yourself, the more excuses you made, the more you found yourself enjoying pleasure and excitement more. It was all automatic. You were just your evolution was downward. And each stage set the stage for even more bizarre thoughts and more tragedies, right? All automatic pilot. Don't think that just because you don't do something, and you struggled to stop it, but you couldn't, striving with your brakes on. I'm telling you, just because you're not making anything happen doesn't mean to say nothing is happening. Because you discover something is, and that's how you can believe in God. Because you're discovering you're getting better without any effort. You're not doing a thing. All you're doing is being objective, being subject to the laws of the air. Simple. Who understands that? Well, it looks like the time went very quickly again today, this evening. Half an hour's go, because we're subject to a timeless dimension. You know, Dynasty goes slower than this. No matter how interesting it is, it still drags compared with what's going on this evening. Viewers, please support the program. This may be the last week or so of the program. If you don't respond, then we can't be here for you. If you find this unusual programming, something that no producer in his wrong mind would ever give you, you know, you turn the TV and find out what you've got in place of this. You know, you won't even find it on educational television. They want to just give you facts, nothing that character building. And then the religious channels, Jesus saves and Moses walked on the Red Seas. A million times you heard it. You know, divided the Red Seas, excuse me. And I'm giving you some real meat. And if you find it valuable, then please let something good in you respond. New Dimensions magazine is $36 a year. If you don't want to give or donate, which is tax deductible, then buy the magazine. The address will be at the end of the program with the other offerings. The book itself is $10 if you want to buy it. But the meditation that we've been talking about is $33. If you don't have the money, we'll give it to you for whatever you can afford. You know, write to the foundation for it, please. In Los Angeles, you can hear me on radio as well as TV. 870 on the dial, KIEV, 9 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday. And join you next week, and ta-da for now.